Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Creative Businessmen. Today we have a special episode for you guys. Today we have Carole and Howard Baskin in the studio with us.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
Thanks for coming and joining us today for the podcast. And it's a pleasure to have you here. We also have Shazir with us. He's a good friend of ours. He's the owner of Shizzy's Wildcat Rescue.
And he's the reason we're here.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having us back.
Yeah, absolutely. Our pleasure. If you guys would want to just say a little about yourselves and maybe what you're working on right now, we'll go from there.
You want to start?
Well, I don't have a name. I'm just known as Carole's husband. But I'm Howard Baskin, and Carole and I operate Big Cat Rescue. She had started it well before, and I joined her about 18 years ago running it. And I had come from a business background before that.
Cool.
He's so modest. He's a Harvard MBA. He has taken us from losing hundreds of thousands of dollars every year at the sanctuary to being one of the most financially successful sanctuaries, and maybe even more importantly, one of the most influential as far as getting the laws changed to protect these cats. He's the driver behind all of that. He was the driver behind putting Joe Exotic in jail, and yet I get all the credit. So it just pains me that everywhere I go, people are like, "Oh my God, you're so amazing!" And it's like, no, it's this guy over here, this guy Howard.
It's incredible. What was your business background in?
I was a banker for 10 years with Citicorp, or then called Citicorp, and then for the next decade, I went into small companies where an entrepreneur had started it. And typically they were marketing-oriented people, salesmen. And if it got going, then the operations and finance would be a mess. And so, basically I tried to go in and clean up the mess and position them to go forward.
Okay.
So he was perfectly positioned for
Right.
somebody like me who's like this big visionary picture, and I'm going to go do all this amazing stuff, and I'm going to change the world, and all of this stuff behind me is just like this chaos. It's like crumbling around my feet. But he comes in and just cleans it all up and gets us a steady income. And
Wow.
Yeah, the sanctuary was very much like these small businesses. When I got there, Carole's father used to do all of the maintenance around in the cage building. And the gift shop was this tiny, like 12 by 12 room in a mobile home. And there was a counter there, and there was a toolbox chained to the counter in cage wire with a lock and a slot. And I thought, man, he must have some expensive tools. He chains them to the counter. Turned out that was the accounting system.
Oh, wow.
If anybody came to do a tour, which very few people did, or anybody made a donation in person, it went into the box. At the end of the night, her father took the box to her mother. She took what was in it to the bank, and that was the accounting system. So but we started from pretty raw beginnings when it came to figuring out the finances.
Yeah. So you rescued the rescue.
he rescued the rescuer as well.
Yeah. So what did you do before you got into helping big cats?
I'm in real estate for a living, and I still do that.
Oh, nice.
I've been investing since 1984, and my niche market is buying raw land, putting in wells and septics, and then a mobile home, and then selling it to people that can't get credit anywhere else. If they make 12 payments to me on time, then I deed it over to them and I hold the mortgage. So it gives people a chance to rebuild themselves, and hopefully they'll take better care of the property. That doesn't always work. I know you guys know about real estate.
Right, yeah.
That's not always the case. And especially this last year when people didn't have to make their payments. I just met with my operations manager that handles that part of the work, and I was expecting probably everybody wouldn't have made their payments last year, but there's only maybe 4 or 5, so it was not as bad as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And now that you broadcast this and she says that, they'll all stop.
Well, they only have till the end
right?
of the month.
Yeah. So,
Well, I think part of that, though, you've given them an opportunity where they have a carrot, right? So you've got two ways to motivate people, the stick and the carrot. And I think you went with the carrot. So, I mean, it's in their best interest to successfully abide by those terms, because at some point, you're given an opportunity that many wouldn't. Right. So, I mean, on some level, and I don't mean this to be mean, but I've been through it myself, where I got to a point where I was credit challenged, and there were things that led to that, but I kind of deserved those limited options, and I wouldn't have had something like that. It would have been nice to do is you give somebody a path forward, so that, hey, I've made mistakes, the 12 months of payments is a sign of good faith and you deed it to them, it proves that they're willing to do what it takes to be creditworthy again. So I think that's cool.
And sometimes it's things beyond their control, like they have an illness in the family that just devastates them, and what are they going to do?
Right.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Or a global pandemic.
That too.
Yeah. We got really lucky with most of our properties. I don't think we had one vacancy or one person that didn't pay. And we've got some people that we do business with or we consult for that are very large property owners. Obviously, they had different stories, but there's a few apartment complexes that 70% of the people weren't paying rent, but all the trash cans were filled with like big TV boxes and PlayStation boxes, Xboxes.
Wow.
So a lot of the tenants were spending money, but they just weren't paying their rent. So, but
And yet they were paying their rent to you, the property owners were?
oh no, these are our properties. We didn't experience this,
Right.
but these are other groups that we work with that have big. They've got thousands of tenants, so much larger than we are. Ours are much smaller, a lot more single family homes, definitely condos, things like that, but much smaller operation. I think that probably is why we're a little bit more insulated.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And the landlords were still required to pay their mortgages.
And their taxes.
Yep.
Yes, and, yeah.
I hate that time of year. Oh my gosh, I hate November worse than
Oh,
any
it's the
month
worst.
in the
Yeah.
year, except for the fact that we met in November and got married in November. But that's tax season for me, and oh man.
Yeah, it's tough.